What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and it's time to talk more Atlanta United. Because the last time I talked about it, we were actually looking pretty good. And right after that, I made that video, and before I ended up uploading it, ironically, then we got crushed in Columbus. So yeah, probably a little bit of a false flag at the beginning of the season, and I think we're starting to see a little bit more now that we still do not have the quality to compete long term and be at the top. And it kind of just goes to show again that we need to get better options in the Boca Negro, we need to get better options in the Pineda, and then we need to start bringing in better players in general because we still have too many gaps in our team. But just to sort of go over sort of what's happened since I last made the video, the 6-1 loss was embarrassing. And honestly, for me, that alone should be a sack-worthy offense. If we want to be top club, if we want to be up there fighting for the top, we should not be losing 6-1 to anybody. Columbus isn't even that great of a team. We shouldn't be losing 6-1 to anybody. Now, the only thing, in my opinion, that kept Lagerwey from doing anything drastic there was the fact that, we're missing some players, because of the weird international break that for some reason the MLS decided to play through, basically making excuses. But here's the problem. If you can't figure out how to win without a couple of your top players, we're going to struggle whenever those international games happen over the summer because you always have to deal with that. So if you can't have a coach that can figure out how to fix it, even you look at last season, it was the injuries. The injuries were our problem. If you can't figure out how to fix the team when you're missing a couple of players, then you're not fit to manage at the top level. And Pineda showed he couldn't do it last season. He's showing that he can't do it this season. Because again, after that, all of a sudden, okay, we're looking okay. We beat Red Bulls, couple of draws on the road, one against Toronto that admittedly should have been a win. Then we come back home, we win again. But then you take out your starting team and you lose to a USL side. That is the second sackable offense that happened this season. You have a 6-1 loss, and then you lose to a USL side in the Open Cup. That is not okay. And the fact that Pineda is still here despite that makes me worried that Lagerwey is not going to be we're going to make a change. Where's the change? 2 embarrassing results. For a club that is striving to be the best, those 2 results should never happen. And if they do, the manager should be in hot water. And the fact of the matter is, clearly it's not hot enough water, because then he goes and loses his next 3 matches. One of which being at home against Charlotte. The other one being away against Inter, who have not done well this season. And on top of that, your star striker that you decided to sold went and scored a brace on you. So why isn't Boca out of his job as well for deciding to trust the manager over sticking with your star striker? So those 4 losses in a row, the fact that there was no change whatsoever worries me. Because again, we were getting this guy in who it sounded like he was willing to make some changes. It sounded like he wanted to come in and get Atlanta back up to where they needed to be. And then we lose 6-1 to Columbus. We lose 4 in a row, starting with a loss in the Open Cup to a USL side. And there's been no change. And then we go and we beat a sorry Colorado team at home 4-0 comfortably. And all of a sudden, I'm assuming it's just going to be, no, things are fine, guys. See, we can still win. We're still fine. We don't need to make any changes. Colorado's won 2 games all season. That win doesn't mean anything. Those 4 losses, those mean a lot. And granted, the MLS is a little bit more of a parity league. So yes, you're going to see more losses than you would, you go to the Premier League, Arsenal, Man City, they're not losing that many games this season. PSG, Barcelona, Real Madrid, they're not going to lose that many games because they are the best. There's not a whole lot of parities in those leagues. But at the same time, those are exciting teams to watch. We're not exciting at all. This league is not exciting. And that's part of the problem. You want to keep everybody kind of on equal playing grounds. Well, guess what? You're going to keep a lot of the top talent out. which means you're not going to be an exciting league. It's not going to be good football to watch. That's one of the dangers of trying to keep everything equal. There's going to be no special teams. There's nothing going to be special about your league. We literally have movies about why trying to keep everything on the same level is going to fail, ultimately. Literally a kid's movie where the bad guy is trying to make everybody super so nobody will be super. That understands the concept of maybe we should try to let some teams be a little bit more special. Maybe we should try to let more talent into the league. Yeah, not everybody's going to be able to keep up, but they're gonna have to try. But no. We're not going to do that here. No, we're going to make sure that everybody stays down. Anybody who's trying to climb, no. Salary cuts. You have a salary wall, you can't pay any more than this, so you're going to have to keep your talent down. So even if you bring in a top talent, you're going to be paying him so much that basically the rest of the team is going to be kids or sorry players that are not able to play any other league except for the MLS. Your Sadiches or your Lennons. Those players that are not, they wouldn't go any other league and succeed. But in the MLS, they can do fine because they're facing other players that are just as bad as they are. So that's my MLS rant, and it's just frustrating for me because, again, I want to see our club. It felt like we were pushing some boundaries when we first came in. We brought in a couple players that were fantastic. We had a manager that was world class and knew what he was doing. And it's like after we won that year, we went and got a crappy manager who turned us into a boring side. And ironically, his name was DeBoer. So it just felt awful. It felt boring. It felt too possession-based. The players we were bringing in weren't on the same level as what we had previously. And then it just kept going downhill. The manager kept getting worse. The players we were bringing in were getting worse. I mean, you look at the first couple seasons, even the players that were our backups, they still had a bit of quality to them. You still felt like they were workhorses. Now, I mean, our backups are basically youth players or just players who don't bring anything at all. You don't see any effect from them on the field at all. So, yeah, it's not looking good. And I was hoping Lagerwey was going to come in, make some changes, shake some things up, do some things different. Pineda's not getting the job done. Let's get him out. Let's get in a good manager like a Tata who's going to come in and know what he's doing, know how to work this team. So if you lose a couple players for a week or so, it's okay. We can figure out how to shuffle things around and make things work. But he's not shown that he can do that. The only teams that we've consistently been able to beat are the pathetic teams in the league. But outside of that, anybody can beat us on any given day. Because we have too many gaps in the team and we have a manager whose tactics are boring and too easy to figure out. And he can't figure out how to find solutions whenever there are problems. So, yeah, it's just going to be another average. We might make playoffs this year. I mean, we started well enough to where maybe we'll have the extra boost to make playoffs, but we're not going to be anywhere near the top if it keeps going like this. I mean, we're already losing Araujo, who's one of our better players. So that's another decision that I'm thinking Boca should be fired for, but now he's going to stick around because, I don't know, for some reason we think that he understands football because he played for the national team. Most of the U.S. national players that played in the past, they don't understand the game on a deeper level. They were just athletes, and that's what made us a bit of a threat, is we were as athletic or more athletic than some of the teams who were better football players than us. But they don't understand the sport. And Bocanegra, you look at Lawless, you look at Stu Holden, you look at a lot of these guys, and you could tell just by listening to them, if you truly understand how the game works, they're just using words that they've heard other people use. Using little phrases that they've heard other people use. And they use them in situations where it makes no sense, because they don't actually understand anything that's going on. They're just repeating, they're just, regurgitating something that's been said before, and something they're like, oh yeah, that sounds good, I'm going to use that too. They're all idiots. They don't know what they're doing. And Bocanegra is a good example. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what type of players to bring in to fit well. He doesn't know what manager to bring in to make sure that we've got a solid group. He's just like, oh, Seattle's doing well. Let's go get their assistant manager. And that's basically it. This guy looks like he's doing pretty well in the South American League. Let's go get him. And that's it. No focus on our goalkeeper, no focus on our defense, no focus on our midfield. Let's just bring in these top quality attackers. Let's just bring in a manager who's going to set us up to be very defensively sound. Honestly, not really, but essentially a manager whose tactics are going to be very possession based. So that way we keep a lot of the ball, and then hopefully those top quality attacking players will get the ball in the final third and they'll make something happen and they'll score goals. And it's very easy to predict because of that. So if we face any team that understands what's going on, that has half of a brain cell when it comes to football, they can see what our tactics are. They can see that we're just going to keep the ball, and all they have to do is wait for one of our sorry players to pick up the ball and then wait for them to make a mistake. Or just pressure us until we go back to our keeper. The keeper will kick it long, they'll win it, and then they'll counter on us quickly, and then they'll go score. And that's kind of been what it's been for the past few games until Colorado, because again, Colorado's pathetic. So, yeah, this season it's starting to feel a little bit more like what I was expecting when I saw what we brought in the summer, because it really didn't feel like much had changed. We still had Almada, and he still looked good, in the preseason, and at the beginning of the season, he still looked solid. Araujo, he's kind of hit or miss. Now he's leaving as he's starting to pick up his game a little bit. Yakimakis was a bit of an unknown, but he's shown he has quality, but he also seems to be a bit injury prone too, because it seems like he's out every other game with something. Our midfield looked weak, and it's been weak. Our defense looks unorganized and no leadership, and it's looked unorganized and no leadership back there. And then keeper-wise, past Guzan, we don't have anything. And sure enough, Westberg has made a couple decent saves, but on the ball, he's a bit scary. And then Diop looks pretty good, physically capable of being a keeper, but on the ball, looks scary. So we have nothing past Guzan still. And it's mind-boggling that this is still a problem. And again, I think it comes down to Boca Negra doesn't understand the game. The people, the analysts, whoever are in charge here in Atlanta, they don't understand the game. So they look at all this and go, oh, no, I think things are going fine. We just need to get a couple more pieces, and I think we'll be good. And that's not the case. We need a bit of an overhaul in how we do things and how we have our team set up. And again, the manager is not good enough. Pineda is not good enough to take this team to the top. So, looking at the players, though, again, we do need to fill some gaps here. So, keeper-wise, past Guzan, I'm not convinced by Westberg. Diop made some really good saves, but he's also a little... it's hard to describe, but he feels a little untamed. He's very athletic, but keeper-wise, his form can look a little weird. And as long as it works, I'm not too put off by it, but especially because I train keepers. He definitely, everything's a little unconventional, it seems, with him. But, he started well, played a couple games well when Westberg was out, and then Westberg comes back and instantly takes his place again. Don't really know why, because I didn't see much from him that convinced me that, oh yeah, he's our backup guys. He's the guy that's he's Shuttleworth again. I'm sure he's going to retire after this season, so don't really know why we're sticking with him over Diop, because Diop, at least athletically, could get the job done in some of those games. In our back four, you've got Lennon at right back, who decent MLS player. He works hard, but no real quality on the ball. He hits one good cross every 2 games, and it's not because he doesn't cross very often. He crosses all the time. He hits one good cross every 2 games. And God, watching the Colorado game, there's a moment, no pressure on him whatsoever. Ball gets laid out to him. He looks to one-time cross it in. He's got options in there, and he puts it behind the goal. Because he doesn't have the quality to be a crosser, to be in the attacking third, to be on the ball. He plays like he's Hazard. He stops and stands on the ball like he's about to do a little move and go past him. That's how Hazard played, because Hazard had the quality to stop and go with pace and beat players because he kept the ball close to... Lennon doesn't have that, but he plays like he does. He plays like he's full of confidence, and then he'll give the ball away or take a bad touch or just, kick it into the defender. So, yeah, Lennon is our best option at right back, and he's hardly even a factor. Left back, decent options. Gutman is pretty good, but also a little uncontrolled, as we saw in the Charlotte game. Sometimes makes some stupid decisions on the ball and defensively. But he's a decent player, and then Wiley is a decent backup option. But past that, we don't really have much. And granted, most of the time, you think you have your two and that's it. But unfortunately, because Wiley is already making waves and already getting called up for some international stuff, you're going to need another option there. And right now, the only other fullback option we have past those three guys is Raul Hernandez, who I'm sure he's a nice guy, but holy crap, is he an awful football player. Just really bad. I mean, so many moments where he just gets beat too easily, he's too weak, he's not fast enough. On the ball, he's not that good. He's a starting player for Venezuela, if that tells you anything about how bad Venezuela is, by the way. He's just not good enough. I mean, he's not even a decent MLS player. So, fullback-wise, we need a lot better options, honestly. I mean, Wiley is a good one. Gutman's pretty good. Lennon is decent. And then Hernandez shouldn't be an option. Center back-wise, we have three, really. Cobb, I would say, is an outside option because he's young, but seems okay. But really, you have three that you trust to be there. Robinson, Parada, Abram. Haven't seen enough of Abram, so I still don't really know if he's going to be any good. Parada makes too many defensive errors. The only thing he really brings is his attacking ability on corners and crosses. And the Robinson still looks okay, but very similar to LGP. He's a good defender if he has somebody else back there to be kind of the leader, the organizer. If he has somebody commanding him, if he has somebody talking to him, that's when he's really good. When he is the one having to organize command, he's not really doing it, and he's a little bit too... He gets out of position too much. He's a little too uncontrolled with his positioning. So he's just not quite that type of defender yet. I think he could be with time, but he's still not there. So we needed somebody like a Parkhurst to be back there and help with that defense, help organize that defense better. But we didn't go get that. So we're still stuck with some younger defenders that, while they're decent, Parada, he doesn't make mistakes all the time, but he does make them. It's a decent back line. It's not good enough. To be at the top, it's not good enough. We needed to improve our defense. That was one of the big things, looking at last season, looking how much we struggled. A lot of that came down to our defense was not good enough, because our attack was fine. We had some good attacking players. We didn't have a defense, and it killed us in so many games because we couldn't finish a couple chances here and there, and then the other team would just easily pass through our defense. We had no keeper as well, so it was just easy to score on us. And yet we didn't improve keeper-wise or defense-wise. So that's still going to be a struggle, and again, looking at the past 4 games before Colorado, we gave up a lot of goals. So into our midfield, again, we needed somebody more defensively capable. Ibarra, he has that potential because he's young, but he's still not there yet. Sosa is too slow defensively. He's better distributing. He's better sitting deep and distributing, kind of like a Jorginho or Fernandez type of role, just thinking from a Chelsea perspective. He has that capability, but defensively he's too slow. He can't keep up with it. His best thing is winning balls out of the air because he's pretty good with a header. And then Rossetto, he's much more of an attacking type of midfielder. He's much more box to box. He'll get up and help. He's good at little 1-2s, but defensively he's not really capable either. And then Sejdic shouldn't be playing. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Should not be playing. The fact that he started so many games this season just goes to show Pineda doesn't know what he's doing, because Sejdic is not a player. If Lennon is a decent MLS player, Sejdic is a bad MLS player, and he's still starting some matches for some reason. He gives the ball away. He's too slow defensively. He's not strong enough defensively. What does he bring? He's constantly sliding because he's too slow to get there. And that can lead to some dangerous challenges and dangerous free kicks and possibly penalties. And he still plays. But we needed one of two things. We needed a Nagby, who is just kind of that little busybody, kind of, he's quick, he gets in there, and he's good at turning challenges, good at keeping possession in tight areas. Or we needed a Laurentowicz, who's just a bully in there. He's strong, he's good defensively, he reads the play well. We needed one of those two options, and we still don't have that. So we have a smaller, younger, sometimes quicker, good with possession midfield, but that doesn't help us whenever we give up possession so easily and then we get countered on a lot. That midfield's not going to help us. And there have been several times when it's been way too easy to counter on us because we don't have a midfield that's really there to help. And then sometimes in possession, it's been a little scary as well for some reason. Even though that should be what they're good at, there are some times that it feels like it's a little too slow. They knocking around too slow, too many touches. As good as those players are on the ball, Rossetto, Sosa, Ibarra, they should all three be pretty solid on the ball. And yet there are too many times where it feels like it's too easy to pick the ball, pick a pass. It should not be that easy with the quality that they possess. So they've got to learn, and then we also need to get just one more player in that's going to be that defensive rock in there to help us out. And then, you go past that, it looks fine. Obviously, Araujo leaving is going to kill us. Like that will put a detriment onto our team. We got rid of Moreno as well. Barco's on loan. So I don't know what they expect to do after Moreno leaves. I don't know if they have somebody already lined up. My hopes are not very high because this club has not been very good about planning ahead. As we saw in the summer when it was like, oh yeah, we'll get rid of Martinez. Don't worry, guys. We'll get a striker in. Don't worry. We'll get him in eventually. We'll get him in. Don't worry. We got this. We know what we're doing. We'll get him in eventually. Any day now. We got him. We got him. So yeah, with Araujo leaving, that's going to really put a damper on our front line. Obviously, very good chance Almada's going to leave as well because there's already a ton of interest in him. But that really takes apart the one thing about this season that was looking pretty solid. Because you got Wiley, Araujo, Almada, Giakoumakis. Those four, that's a solid front four. They're very quick. Giakoumakis is a great post-up striker. He's strong. He works hard. But the problem does lie in the fact that you go past that, we don't really have much. Etienne, not really a factor. He's that player that when he gets on the ball, the best thing you can hope for is that he gets a corner. Because if not, then his cross is going right to the keeper or right to a defender, or he's just going to get the ball stripped off of him and then start a counter. But he's not got the quality or the pace to really challenge anybody. Barry, I'm going to say he is the worst backup striker that we've had at the club. He should not be a backup striker. When we brought him in, I looked up his stats and I'm thinking, this guy? I'm not even a stats guy. I think stats in soccer is kind of stupid. But you look at a striker stats and you can kind of tell, okay, well, how many goals is he assisting? How many goals is he scoring? How many games is he playing? He was playing for DC last season. I don't think he scored. I don't think he assisted. I think he played 13, 15 matches, something like that, if I remember right. So we're bringing in a striker who's already failed in the MLS to be our backup striker. The thing is, he might be just a legs option, like a third striker option. You've got your starter, you've got your young striker, Conway, who we decided to loan out for some reason. Like that would be a decent 1 and 2. Giakoumakis, Conway. They're your two strikers. Giakoumakis is obviously the first choice, but you got a young striker who's coming up. We're going to give him some chances here and there when Giakoumakis isn't available. And then if you need a third striker, if one of these two is injured or one of these two needs a break, then you've got Barry you can throw in. And he can just be some legs out there. But no, he's our backup. The guy who, I don't think I saw him touch the ball against Colorado. Against Colorado, who he beat 4-0, by the way, I don't think I remember seeing Barry touch the ball. If that tells you anything about how he's performing this season. And he is our backup striker. to a striker who is constantly out with injury problems. And then past that, I mean, you've got Chol, who looks halfway decent. He's big kid, strong, fast, maybe a little bit more quality needed on the ball, but hey, he's an option you can throw in, be a little bit dangerous. He's probably, of the three I've mentioned so far, he is probably the best option to throw in up top, because he'll at least give you something. He'll work hard, and he's got enough pace and strength to do so. So, yeah, I mean, the front line, it's strong right now, but you go past that starting four, and you really drop off in quality, and we're losing one of that starting four now in the summer. So, honestly, I mean, things have already started dropping off. I think it's really going to see a big drop off. I think we might go on a decent run without winning a game after we lose Araujo. Unless they have a plan, which, again, I'm not confident that they have a plan. So, yeah, that's kind of all of my thoughts. I think, was there anybody else to talk about? If there's anybody else like that comes in off the bench, I guess Wolf. We've seen him feature a couple times, and he works decently hard, but I just don't think he's physically capable or cut out for this level. I mean, he might be able to get there, but you can tell. There's sometimes you can watch certain players who are younger, and you can tell that they're not quite there yet. They could grow into it, but they're definitely not at the same level physically as the players they're up against. And Wolf, I feel like, is one of those players. Like, he's not quite there yet. He's not quite strong enough. He's not quite fast enough. But he does work hard, so I'll give him that. And I do think in a couple, maybe in a year or so, I think we will start to see him possibly break into the MLS a little bit more. But I don't see enough potential from him right now to say I'm excited to see more of him. Like, Wiley was one last season I was excited to see more of, because he was young, but he was already physically capable. So you've kind of felt like all he needed to do was just be a better player. Just get down his touch, the dribbling, finishing, all of that. And this season, it feels like he started to grow into that a bit. So, yeah, we'll see where Wolf goes. But overall, for Atlanta United, it's hard to be excited anymore. We started this season decently well. It felt like maybe we're going to have an okay season where we'd finish not top of the table, but we'd be good enough to at least comfortably be playoff position. But yeah, ever since I did the first video, it's shown me we're still not there. We're still not going to be anywhere near the top of the table. We're barely going to make playoffs if we even do. And it just feels like things are going to start dropping off soon. I mean, it already kind of has, but I don't know. I mean, maybe the 4-0 result, and if Giakoumakis is back fully fit, maybe we'll see a few more games, a few more wins here over the next few weeks. But honestly, I'm not feeling super confident about this season anymore, and I feel like I'm not alone this year. Last season it felt like there was kind of a positive feel around the fan base up until about halfway through the season when we were well off the top. We were not in the playoff spots. Things were looking pretty bad. There was starting to be some dissent or discontent throughout the fan base about halfway through last season. But overall, people still kind of felt like, okay, well, there's still injuries, so maybe once we get those injuries back next season, things will look good. We'll make some changes in the off season, all that stuff. People were still being over positive, in my opinion, because it's one thing to be positive. It's one thing to be a cheerleader. Because being a cheerleader means just every single thing, no matter what, you never say anything bad. You're just always positive. Things are always going to be okay. And honestly, it didn't really feel like that to me. More realistically, it felt like things were not looking good. Things were looking like it was going to be a bit of a drop-off, and then starting this season, things started to look up, but now it's getting back to kind of what I'm expecting to see. Until we see some actual change at this club, until we see Boca and Pineda both gone, and we get people in that know what they're doing, that understand the sport on a deeper level, it's going to be like this. We're just going to have these runs where you lose one player or you just have a dry spell. People aren't really connecting. Things are looking kind of people aren't really working hard. you're going to have these dry spells and you're going to have these runs of games where you lose or you don't win. That's just going to happen until we see some actual change. And yeah, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but that 4-0 win, that is not for me a sign that things are going to start getting better. That's just Colorado's just that bad. So, but we'll see what happens next. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the past few games for Atlanta? All of the losses, all of the frustration. What are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to the rest of the season? Do you feel like me where things just aren't looking that great? Or do you think we'll turn it around in the summer? We'll get some players in to help, and you still trust Pineda? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta talks, and I will see you guys at the next one. Peace out.